right. A very good morning to all of you, and welcome to join this webinar on Microsoft Power BI. So before I walk you through the agenda for the day, allow me to have a quick introduction about myself, as well as the company that I'm from. Okay, so my name is Manho. Yeah, for all the participants, kindly be reminded to mute your microphone. Okay, let's continue. So, as I said, I'm Manho from CSI Interfusions. Our company actually is the Microsoft Go partner, and my team here actually specialize in Power Platforms product. And Power BI actually is one of the component from Power Platforms. So, CSI Interfusion basically is a subsidiary of Chinasoft International, where our company actually is ranked as #1 IT service provider in China. So our company has different branches across the globe that you can see on the left side of this presentation slide, right? We are also ranked as one of the global top IT service provider in the world. So across the countries out there, we have around 63,000 employees that are providing services and solutions to our clients. So basically, throughout the years, CSI Chinasoft International actually partner with quite a lot of global and local clients. For example, of course, Microsoft is one of our partner. Then we have partnership with Huawei, HSBC, and recently in Malaysia, we are having a partnership with Hong Leong Bank as well. So in 2018, so CSI actually achieved a revenue of over 1.5 billion for the second consecutive year. So it's actually making us is one of the largest software and IT services in China. So CSI Interfusion actually provide different kind of services to the client. For example, we are providing managed service, cloud service, such as big data, for example, data migration, augmented resources and all, and etc. Right. And we actually have qualified engineer on site in more than 32 countries. Okay. So that's about it about the introduction on my company. So next, I'm going to walk you through the agenda for today. So first of all, I think this whole webinar will actually split into two different parts. The first part is we will tell you about what is Power BI, why Power BI, and then where Power BI sits into the current digital transformation era, right? Then I will share you some of the use cases that we have built over the times, right? And of course, I will walk you through about how it's done, what you need to know, what are the information that is benefit for you if you are decided to implement Power BI into your organizations. Now, that's the first part of the webinar. The second part of the webinar will be the most exciting part, where my colleague Ryan will actually have a lab session with you and show you how can you build a Power BI report from head to toe in just 1.5 hours. Okay, so of course, before the end of this webinar, we will allocate a 30 minutes Q&A session for all the audience. In case you have any queries, you can ask, or any doubts, you can ask during that Q&A session. And of course, you can post your question in the chat message as well. Then our team will actually pick up these kind of questions and reply you throughout the chat as well, right? And again, I would appreciate if those that just joined would mute your mic, right? Now, let's go into the first thing. Now, current industry 4.0. So everywhere we are seeing, I mean, people are talking about digital transformation.
Hi, for all the participants, please mute your mic.
Okay. Okay, right. So, okay, let's continue. So as I was saying, so every industry is actually undergoing a fundamental transformations. So in the future, whether you like it or not, all companies will be digital companies. Well, it is not only building of products, but also services to capture new business opportunities, and how you engage with customer will be different to meet the customer evolving expectations. So organization actually have focused on the four core areas for a long time that you see on the screen here. So for example, we are always talking about we want to give our customers to have the ideal experiences. We want to empower our employee to do their best. And we want to ensure that the effectiveness and efficiency across the businesses and our operations, right? And that's the best product and services are being developed and delivered to our customer. So digital transformation is also happening across all these four core areas. So, but if let's say when we talk about digital transformation, if you ask different people, if you ask different organizations, they might have different answers. So for Microsoft created a framework called this digital feedback loop to highlight how digital transformation is enabled. And of course, when we talk about digital transformation, everything at the center is data. Data would be the heart of everything, right? And data is actually coming out of everything. Every single product at this point is being wired up with telemetry and the ability to collect data. So I think the most obvious example for you is your smart devices, such as your smartphone. So every time when you browse something on your smartphone, there's a telemetry being created, right? And every time you do something on your smartphone, the data is collected by something and somewhere, right? So this torrent of information actually allow us to better understand our customers, our operations, the use of our product and services is fuel for this transformation. And then which allow us to actually go for mindful intelligence, right? And predict what customer may need, understand when a piece of equipment is on its way to a challenging spot or to a failure before it gets there, right? Now, so taking all of this information, this prediction, and then feeding back into our business processes, I believe this is where the change is occurring. So the digital feedback loop concept across your core business processes is ultimately what enables the transformation. So it allows you as an organization to change your business, to change your processes, and ultimately transform your industry. Now, so when you come to analytic tools and solution, I think it is very important to know that what's out there and to leverage solutions that work with Power BI to support better and faster decision making. As such, I would like to introduce you to the Microsoft Power Platforms. So like I said in the opening, Microsoft Power BI actually is one of the components of Microsoft Power Platforms. So at here, we will share you a high level ideas on Power Platform so that you can have an overall picture where this Power BI sits in this Power Platform ecosystem, right? So Microsoft Power Platforms actually is a system that enable users to do 3 key actions on data and which they can help them to drive the business. So let's look at the first action, which is analyze. So we analyze with Power BI tool to make sense of the data through an interactive and real-time dashboards. So from there, you can unlock a different insight that is needed to drive your business forward. So once you're converting the data into information, so this is where you will need to act on the information. So this is where the second component comes in, which is a Power Apps, right? So Power Apps basically is a tool for you to build apps in hours, and then that can be easily connected to different sources. And it is a low-code platforms solution that actually using Excel-like expression to add logic into your applications and allowed it to run your apps on a website and on your mobile devices, such as your Apple or Android devices, right? So the last actions is, of course, is automate, right? So it is leveraging the tools of Power Automate to actually include a powerful workflow in your applications with a no-code approach, so that you can actually reduce some of the processes and to increase the efficiency of how the process and how your apps works, right? So that's a nutshell on these Power Platforms. And of course, today's our main topic will be focusing on Microsoft Power BI, right? So what you see on screen here actually is the features that this Power BI will be provided, right? So in a nutshell, what's Power BI? So Power BI will provide you an interactive and highly customizable charts. And of course, it is used for you to make sense of the data and for you to take actions. And within this Power BI, there are a couple of tools that actually allow you to model your data, to perform some modeling, to help you to shape your data, transform your data for a stronger result, right? And of course, it will allow you to discover new insight with Power BI. And we are also seeing that we can keep the data secure and compliant. So these are the things that will be covered in today's webinar sessions. So next, now let's talk a little bit about the evolution of BI. Now, the way of this BI is used in organizations has changed significantly over the years. So one of the understanding this, one way for us to understand these changes is using the analogy of these three waves of Power BI. So let's start with the first wave. So I believe in the early days of BI, as an organization, they would typically have a team or a person handling all the requests for insights from the business, right? This model is not very scalable, and it can take a long time for the answer to actually get back to the users. So by the time it does, right, new questions might probably has already come out, right? So this will actually causing whatever answer that you find out will have a lack of whatever the business would need at that moment, right? So this is where a second wave of BI's tools evolve, where to solve for the lack of scalability and gap between the BI team and end users. The second approach of BI is to get the BI capabilities in the hands of analysts. We have a team of analysts to work together with the end users to understand how business work and support decisions with analytics. Now, and to Microsoft, this is not good enough. That's why we will have Power BI. So with Power BI, Microsoft wants to enable everyone in the organizations to analyze the data, to ask the questions that will help them to run the business better and act based on the insights they find, right? So what is, how Power BI actually looks like in the overall architecture or the image that you can see. So actually it is as simple as step 1, 2, 3, right? So first of all, let's talk about from the left-hand side, you will see that there's a cloud or on-premise data. So these are the data source, right? Before you want to create a report, you need to know where you get your data source, right? That's why the first step is to identify your data source. So data source can be from a cloud-based database or on-premise database, or even if you want to combine a cloud-based and on-premise database and display the data into your reports, it can be done as well. So identify your data source. To get your data source is the step 1. Now, step 2 is where you use Power BI to shape your data and to visualize the data, to transform your data into information. So Power BI will actually help connecting and loading, transferring data and creating reports, dashboards, and applications.
The office and integration.
Hi. For the participant who just joined in, please mute your mic. Thanks. You may continue, Panho.
Okay, so I was talking about these BI tools. So once you get your data, right? So you will use Power BI to help you to shape and transform the data, right? So we are doing the loading, transforming the data, and creating reports, dashboard, and even applications for your data visualizations. So once you have everything ready, so the ultimate objective for us to build a report is to share the information to a wider audience in your organizations. So for Power BI, deliverables can be viewed on a variety of platforms. So it can be on web, it can be on your mobile devices. You can embed your Power BI report in your Excel, in your SharePoint, in your PPT, and your website, for example, right? So we will explore more in the later stage of this webinar, right? So that is the idea of Power BI step 1, 2, 3. Okay. So next, as I was saying, we can embed Power BI into different kind of applications. So one of the most successful and common use cases is you integrate Power BI report with your team. So the idea is that you have a seamless connection of your data to your so-called for your users to have a quick and easy analysis, and your user will able to discuss the report and insight with the team through chat. You don't really need to switch to different screen and to actually analyze, and then maybe you go back to your email and type, right? So everything will be centralized in one location. If you want to have that kind of a solution, it can be supported by this Power BI as well. Now, next, when we talk about Power BI, right, there are two main types of Power BI. So one is called Power BI Report Server, and then we will have a Power BI service. So let me show you some of the similarities and different later. So the idea of Power BI Report Server and Power BI Service is actually exists to target different group of needs. So for example, I think most of the information that you got online that you see from YouTube or from Microsoft, we are talking about Power BI Service. It is a cloud-based solution. Everything will be hosted in cloud. Everything will be processed in cloud. But if let's say you are coming from a banking industry or energy industry, where your data is governed data, and you can't actually put your data on the cloud, right? So this is where the Power BI Report Server comes into picture. It allows you to run your reports, to host your reports into your own server in a confined, environment that we're not putting everything into the cloud, right? So these two types of Power BI, so the similarity actually is quite, quite the same in terms of where you get your data source, what are the features of how do you defining your reports, how do you import your data, how do you shape your data. All the tools that are available for the cloud versions will be supported by the on-prem version as well. So these are all the similarities. So next, let's look at the differences of these two types of Power BI service, right? So as you can see, Power BI Report Server, the main objective will be hosting it on premise, right? However, if you want to have a hybrid solution where some of the report might not be contain sensitive data, you want to put it on the cloud and share it to the public or share it to anybody, you can have a hybrid solution as well for Power BI Report Server. But for Power BI Service, which is you are seeing on this column, is actually the cloud-based. So there is no on-prem version per se. Now, one of the another main differences is the licensing that's supported, whether this whether it supports a report server or the so-called Power BI service, is that for Power BI Report Server, you will require a Power BI premium license. Or if let's say your company is already using SQL Server Enterprise Edition with software assurance, it is already come with this Power BI Report Server license. Well, the idea is that actually for Power BI Report Server, you will need to make use of the SQL Server to actually host your reports, to host your data, right? Well, whereas for Power BI Service, the most common license, the most general license is called Power BI Pro, where each of the users will be able to to upload the reports, to work on the reports, and of course to share the reports, right? And of course everything will be hosted in the cloud. Now, the next difference is the release cycle. So the release cycle here means actually is like how often Microsoft will release an update for this report server, for this Power BI version, whether it's a report server or it's a Power BI service. So for report server, it will be 3 times a year. And for Power BI service, it will be monthly. And another thing that I would like to highlight to you is that currently in Power BI, there are a lot of preview features, meaning that it is not released to public yet, but it is available for you to test out the features. It might not be the finalized functions, but they are, whenever they have new ideas and that is ready for the public, so they will release it as a preview features. So all these preview features, actually you can use it on Power BI service. However, if you are using the on-prem version, the Power BI Report Server, you won't be able to support all these so-called the preview features. Now, in terms of how do you develop the Power BI reports, right? So for Power BI Report Server as well as Power BI Service, there are 2 different type of versions. However, the interface, the user experience was still the same. So, right. So one of the version is optimizing for this report server. One is the version is optimized for this Power BI service. Now, so you see that there's a difference, there's similarity. So let's address the elephant in the room first. I think we want to make it clear is that Power BI report server, of course, like I said, the needs for Power Report server is very much different than Power BI service. If let's say you have a specific requirement, that's why you will need to use this Power BI resource server that hosting everything on cloud. On-prem. So there are a lot of features that actually are excluded from this report server. They are leveraging on these cloud-based, the Microsoft Azure cloud-based mechanisms, right? So these are all the features that actually excluded from the report server, just to let you know, because all these things will be making use of the cloud-based AI to actually do some analytic, do some calculations, do some processing, right? So this will not be available if you're doing everything in your own server, okay? So next is when we talk about the cloud, when we talk about we putting Power BI to the cloud, when I talk about I putting my data in the cloud. I think one of the most normally asked questions is that how secure it is, right? So Power BI actually adheres to lots of international and regional compliance certifications, and all the privacy and data protection policies and processes, right? So all this information are actually available for you to get from the Microsoft Trust Center, right? So next is okay. So next is basically this one is to show you the research that done by Gartner, which is dated February 2020. So among all the similar products on Power BI, so actually Microsoft Power BI is rated as one of the top tools, top products that's within all the competitors, right? So that's about it on my introductions on Power BI. So next, I will share you some use cases that we have built just to give you an idea on how might you use the Power BI tool in your company. What could be the use cases that might intrigue you to actually build it, right? So the first report that I'm going to share with you is a financial dashboards for a parking management company. So what you see on the left-hand side here actually is a overall view of your transactional report. So now, why do we even have this financial dashboard? I think MCO is not a strange term to all of us in Malaysia right now, or even in the entire world actually, right? So I think besides the health topic that we're going to look into, I think another important aspect is the financial, how the virus actually affected our companies, how the virus actually affected the organization in terms of the financial standing. So this report actually is built to have an impact analysis before the sales of the MCO and during the MCO, and do a comparison. So what you see on the first screen here actually is the so-called the overview, where you have a glance of a chart to tell you exactly how it looks and where is your current standing for different stages of our MCO. For example, we have phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and so on, right? So from here, you can actually do the comparison. You can select different phases to actually see, right? Now, if let's say I want to know more details about which exactly is the records that is affected, which exactly is the fields that is affected, which section is affected, right? So we can also drill into the second screen here. What you're seeing here is that we will have a detailed looks of a table field and look, right? So that it will actually allows you to drill down specifically to a specific transaction date to show all your data. And of course, you can all sorts of different kind of labels to illustrate what data is most important to you. For example, what are the actual difference? So these are the things that you can put into the header per se, so that you can have for your users to have a quick glance of your data. Now, the third screen basically is something like a pinpoint analysis of a specific location. Imagine that if let's say your organization, you have different branches across different regions. You want to know how well a region is performing. So you can also zoom down into this kind of specific region and locations to have the analysis and see what are the impacts that this MCO actually affecting you. I mean, how much money you are making, or you are making losses, or even you are making profit, right? So these are all the information that can be achieved by converting all your data into a Power BI report. Okay, so the next use case would be the human resource dashboard for a digital company, right? So this is quite a high level one. So let me just give you a quick walkthrough here. Is that what you're seeing on the first screen here is one glance at employee demographics. It gives you an idea how many employees in total for your organizations. Then we can split by department with the use of filtering and all, right? And also, if let's say we want to keep track of each and every single employee's performance, so you can go into the second screen here to actually to see how well the employee performs in the training as well as the daily work to work, right? So these are the idea for human dashboard, resources, right? So next use case that I would like to share to you is energy plant performance monitoring dashboards. So for this report, I think it might be a good idea for me to show you the actual use case, how we actually use these reports on the Power BI service. So please bear with me. Let me just switch my screen to the Now, what you're seeing here is actually what you will see as a user when you log into Power BI service. So this is one of the report that we built for this plant energy plants performance analysis. So first thing first, normally when you go into the first page of a report, it will be the overview of how well the performance is. So for now, we basically have everything in totality. We have a total power output example, right? You can see the average availability of the energy that I produce, right? As you can see, a different kind of charts depending on what are the information that you want to see. Then you can tweak around different kind of charts to actually transform your data, to transform your insight into information. So what you see here is actually is the performance by different regions, right? Now, another thing that I would like to share to you on this page is that a feature called bookmarks. If let's say you want to know what is my top output, for example, for a coal-fired plant, right? So what Power BI actually supports here is that once you do a drill down yourself, for example, here, if I want to select something specifically for this particular records, so you will notice that every chart corresponding to my selection will be changed, right? So this is where we call it the interactive between the charts, right? And let's say you want to save this kind of information for your next usage or for your other user to see exactly what you have filtered or drilled down. So this is where you can create a bookmarks, as you can see on this section. So for example, if I just click on this one, it will actually bring me to whatever information that I already filtered and drilled down to, so that it will give another user a quick look on all this information that I already saved. Now, likewise, for Power BI, it supports a different kind of filtering, allow you to actually filter your data, to drill down your data, right? So one of the examples that we can share to you is that the date filter, where if let's say you want to know what's my performance, what's the total power output in 2020. So I will just need to select 2020. So you will see that there's a quarter one, there's a January, there's a date hierarchy there for you to select from, right? So that is on the so-called the overview on the page, right? So next, let's go into a more details performance analysis. So from here, let me just remove my filter. So from here, you'll be able to see basically, the filtering on the left-hand side here, actually, the filtering, it can be defined as what kind of information that you would like to define. So I will skip this part. So what you're seeing on the other charts here actually is the so-called the KPI that you will need to monitor, right? You can set different kind of chart to actually illustrate the so-called the generation, the power generation, the performance, how well it performed over the years, over the months. It can go up to the go down to days level, to weeks level, to months, and even to quarter and years. So it is entirely up to the business. It's up to the scenario or questions that your business have, and you can build a chart to address each of the questions. I mean, yeah. So another thing is that if let's say this is where you can have the so-called a details look of your data instead of always every single time looking at the charts. I mean, different level of users might have different needs. So for example, for your C-level management, they might not have the necessary to go into a very detailed data. They might need to want to see the overall picture. So this is where we can have the charts with the so-called the totality of the data that you have. But if we are the working level where you need to analyze each of every single kind of details, so you can also use Power BI to create a form-like or table-like kind of chart for you to have all the details. And of course, the so-called the flexibility for you to tweak around your charts. For example, one of the items that you see on screen is an indicator to see whether the record here actually is uptrend or downtrend. So these are the things we call it a conditional formatting can be applied in Power BI report. So in details on how can you do all these things and each of the components, right? It will be covered in the second part of our session later. Okay. So next, I would like to share with you is some of the analytics features that Power BI has. So now, I think when we talk about Power BI, a lot of people will ask about forecasting. So how does it work? If I want to forecast what is my performance for the next 5 years or maybe next 5 months, right? So what you're seeing here, the first thing that I would like to share to you is the forecasting, right? Now, the forecast model that Power BI use is based on your historical data, right? For example, now I have data from January until January 2020, right? Until January 2022, right? So my forecast, the forecast that we can apply on these charts here actually is based on the performance here. And then it depends on how long do you want to forecast? And based on the forecast that you set, based on the parameter that you set in Power BI charts, and it will actually show you a so-called relevant kind of chart. So for example, if you see on this chart, basically at May of each year, May or October each year, you will see that there's a spike of your generation here, right? Same goes in your forecast. If you have seen the so-called the trend here, you will notice that the next May 2020, you are actually seeing a spike of the so-called the generation here. Same goes for the October. So basically, this kind of so-called forecasting will be based on your historical data. So how do you set this kind of forecast? I mean, the so-called what are the charts that supporting this forecast? It will be shared later in the
Hello, I think we lost audio.
I think you go on mute.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I believe someone has unmute my. Okay. So so I was talking about the forecasting. Now I will move on to the what if, right? So what you're seeing here is actually called a what if analysis features that coming from Power BI, right? So this is a very interesting features that allow you to analyze, allow you to create a scenario, something like what if a certain outage hour, for example, in this use case, a certain outage hour will affect the availability of my power. So for example, what you can see here is there's a slicer here. So what if my outage hours is 23 hours? So it will actually help you to forecast what will be the projection of the availability based on your current data and the formula that you set with these what if features. Then same goes for this kind of, you can drag, then you will actually display what if, these are some of the so-called the analysis that it will be able to bring it to you as a user to see what if this one. So this kind of what if scenario would be applicable to different kind of scenario. For example, if let's say you are doing a sales kind of reporting and you are giving out incentive to your employee, so you want to know what if I give 10% of incentive of a total profit to my employees, how much I need to fork out as a cost for myself as an organization. So this is where you can play around the features of what if to come up with this kind of calculation so that it will allows you to see the standing, what is your data standing per se, right? So that's about it on the sharing of this use case. And I would like to talk about on the data that's displaying here. So whenever we talk about Power BI report service, right, the data that you are seeing here, we call it a real-time data. Real-time data means whatever data that in database, if you refresh it, then it will display into your report here. However, it won't reflect immediately. So for Power BI service, at the later part, I will talk about the scheduling refresh. But to give you an idea is that you will need to do a refresh of your data source to fetch your data into a report. So it is not a live streaming of a data set to your report. So this is for the normal cases of reporting that we're talking about. However, Power BI actually have another fascinating features where it support live streaming data set. So let me give you a quick walkthrough to show you how it looks, right? So the second report here, you are seeing actually, these are just a sample reports. They are created to get the data from my laptop as a device, right? And to get the so-called the CPU usage, my memory usage, and to show you so-called how the live streaming works. So how it actually works is it actually require you to venture into a more advanced and layer of a Power BI to actually do some coding and pump the data into your Power BI report. So as you can see here, now I'm actually pumping the data from my desktop here to the Power BI report. So you can see that the data here actually is changing by the seconds. So this kind of report is very suitable if, let's say, you have a use case of if you're running a factory and you want to know, hey, how my machinery is working. If let's say your machinery already supporting IoT, the Internet of Things, they're already gathering data of there. So you can make use of this Power BI live streaming data sets of features and actually always get the latest up-to-date information that display on your dashboard and allow your users to make faster decisions. So it doesn't require you to do a schedule refresh or to manually refresh the data source in order for you to see the latest data. So this is one of the main difference of live streaming and real-time data in this Power BI report. Power BI report. Now, but to be honest with you, if you are asking me, if a common business user able to deliver this kind of live streaming data, live streaming report, my answer to you is no. If let's say you have IT background, you know how the codes works. So this is where, the Power BI will venture into a so-called a more complexity, a deeper complexity kind of layer where you actually advance so-called the advanced user or advanced IT personnel to actually come up with this kind of scripting to actually get the data from your data source, right? Now, let's go back to the presentation. So these are all the use cases that I would like to share to you. Let me just go back here. Now, with all the use cases that we shared to you, so I think it is a good time that we tell you, how it is to be done in order for you to cover from head to toe. What are the things that you will need to take note, and what are things that might be helpful to you to get you started in this the implementation of Power BI. So first thing first, I think I will share to you on how is it we do the managing in Power BI. So the first topic that I would like to talk about is the access control in Power BI. So now, for all the reportings, you might have a question to ask. What if I want to limit my users to see certain level of data? For example, if let's say my company is from branch in region A, I can only see the data that display for region A. I'm not allowed to see the data of region B and C and so on, right? So this is where this row level security, RLS, comes into picture, where in Power BI, you can actually set a restriction on all the data access by defining a different role, and you can filter whatever information that the user can see, right? So it is actually applicable to data models, which is already imported into a Power BI via your Power BI desktop, right? So once you created a role and all these are filtered data, right? So you can assign this role to a different user so that whenever a user A comes in, I can only see whatever data they assign to me. So this is how this role level security comes to picture. Now, next we will talk about the scheduling, right? This is where I mentioned just now about how you schedule your data to refresh and see the latest data in your common Power BI report. So basically, scheduling is something like to config a schedule refresh plan for your Power BI report via the Power BI web portal. Then, of course, when you refresh your data, when you want to refresh your data, you will need to have the credential for all the data sources that were all imported. So this is how it controls the access of how the Power BI report to connect to your data source to ensure that you are actually have the rights to connect to this data source and get the latest data from the data source. Now, bear in mind that for Power BI, they are based on your different license, you might have different kind of number of refreshes per day is allowed, right? So for example, the common license is Power BI Pro, where it allows a maximum 8 times per day for you to do a schedule refresh. But that doesn't mean that you cannot refresh more than 8 times. If let's say you want to refresh it more than 8 times, you can have a manual refresh. Your user have to go into the Power BI report service there and click on the refresh button to do the manual refresh, right? Now, if let's say you have a Power BI premium license, you will have 48 times per day, right? This will actually give you roughly about half an hour once to actually refresh your data, right? Now, next we talk about workspaces, right? So workspaces is basically it's like a container for your reports to host your report. So for example, you can create different kind of workspaces for different kind of departments. So for example, finance might have some sort of a sensitive data that only finance users can access. So all the reports that created for Power BI finance team, you can upload into a workspace that dedicated to finance users. And you can assign this workspace, you can share the access to the workspace to finance user only, right? So this is how the so-called the workspaces work. So the idea is that you will have a common container to share it amongst the users, to share it to the authorized users for collaboration and content sharing purposes, right? So next, you will have a dashboard and report sharing. So similar to all the workspaces and the so-called the row level security, each of the reports and dashboard that you created, you'll be able to assign individually to anyone, or if you want to assign to a user group, a group of people, it can be done as well. So this is where you actually control to allows you to limit whoever can access your data, right? Now, the last part I would like to say is the so-called integration of this Power BI, right? Power BI, if you embed your Power BI services into a different kind of external party, for example, your website, your SharePoint, even your Excel, right? It will also require you to actually authenticate yourself in order for you to verify yourself before you can use the report, right? So that is on the integration part. So now, so we talk about the Power BI, how it is to actually build the, to get the data, to build the reports, all right, a high level view on that. So if you want to actually deliver on these visions, to deliver on this digital transformation by using Power BI, we believe the best place to start is actually is at the end user's needs. We have to look at what the end user needs to do first. So let's look at the first item, which is the access part. So the Power BI tool actually has the ability to actually allow you to easily connect to the data that lives in different kind of system and locations, right? So the next step is to clean the data. The data that's sitting in database usually does not come in the so-called the structured format. it normally will contain errors or inconsistency in the data itself. So the BI tools, well, actually we need to have the ability for users to find an easy way to clean the data, to model the data, so that the format can be optimized for the reporting purpose, right? So next is how you can mash up your data, right? So for example, we believe that the data will not come into one single location. For example, you might have some data sitting in Excel, you may have some data that's sitting in your SQL server or sitting in other system, but you want to create a report based on these two data sources, right? So the tool itself will actually allows you to combine data from multiple sources to mash up all these data sources per se, so that you can access them easily. So once you have everything comes to picture, once you connected all the database, now it's come to the exploration stage, where once you have this, so we will need to provide a way for users to actually easily explore the data, to drill down the data, to slice and find the insight that hidden in the data. So like you see in the use cases demo just now, we can have filter to actually allows them to drill down specifically, right? And we can select the charts to actually see the interaction between different kind of information, right? So next we'll come to visualizations. You have insights, you have your data model ready. So now you have to create, you have to so-called to visualize the insights and the data that you have into a visualization chart, right? So I think as we usually say, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So actually when you show a charts to a user, I think it will bring up the so-called a more detailed information, and it would be a more effective way for you to convey the message to your end users. Now, of course, once you have every single thing's ready, once you have report is done, then you will need to share. We talk about collaboration, we talk about content sharing. So the BI tool actually will have an easy way for you to share this insight, to share this report to the other users. So this cycles, so once another users are getting hold of your data, for example, getting hold of your report, for example, this same process actually starts again for other user, right? So where he or she might want to add a new data source, they want to look at the data at a different perspective. Maybe they don't want to look at the region A, they want to see another regions, right? So, or even they want to ask a different kind of questions. So it also, I mean, the process will be repeating, right? This is how it is enabling the users to actually participate in the usage of our Power BI. Now, next, we're going to talk about the assessing and preparing data. Okay. Now, Power BI actually allows you to connect to a variety of data sources. Currently, at this moment, it supports up to 115 data sources. For example, the most common one should be Excel, for example, or SQL Server. So for now, all the common SQL servers such as Microsoft SQL Server, the Azure SQL Server, MySQL, Oracle DB, this kind of SQL server, this kind of relational database are supported by Power BI to import it, right? Another things that would be interesting for you to know is that these kind of data sources is not necessarily coming from one place. You can import from different kind of places. It can be a combination of on-prem and cloud-based. It says you have Excel that's sitting on your laptop. It is considered an on-prem kind of data source, right? However, if you want to link this Excel to the Azure SQL DB that you have in your company, so you can import both data source into Power BI report, and you can actually work on the data to mash up the data and create the visualization for your users. So these are the things that we will cover later in the lab session as well. Okay, so so next I would like to talk about this data modeling and exploration, right? So once you get hold of your data, I think the most important thing is you need to make sure that the data that you have is actually presentable. It's optimized for you to create a chart or visualizations. So this is where the clean up and mash up your data steps will come into picture, where Power BI actually provides you a very powerful capabilities and allows your users to shape, to transform and clean your data for analysis purpose, right? So Power BI actually provides these capabilities as an integrated part of the data preparation exercise, meaning you can do this transformation, everything into the, in this Power BI tools together. You don't really need to go to external, use external software or do it externally to actually mesh up the data. You can do it in one single place, so that it will provide a faster experience for your business analysts to actually work with data and build reports, right? So some of the example of I mean, how do you clean up or mesh up the data, right? Some of the example that I can share to you is that there are two main different so-called model that you can use to actually mesh up the data. So for example, if you are familiar with Excel, right? Excel are actually using DAX formula to actually come up with some sort of analysis data for yourself. So same goes in Power BI. It does support the similar formula that that calls a DAX, right? It allows you to actually create a formula, to create a expression for you, to generate some data for you. So and of course, you will also provide another tools called mQuery, where it actually helps you to, I mean, for you to actually do data massage kind of a processor. For example, you want to remove some sort of a data, you want to set up some conditioner to create some additional data. It will be all able to handle by this data modeling, right? So next, let's look at exploration of your data, right? So once you imported your data, you massage your data. Now it comes to the exploration stage, where you will need to, I mean, the user will need to explore the data in a variety of ways across multiple visualizations. So for Power BI, as you can see, it supports different kind of charts. It supports different kind of filter element. So it is leveraging cross filter capabilities, meaning that you can select more than one filter to zoom down exactly to what data that you want to see, right? And of course, you can also have a pivot of your data, right? And then you want to change on different type of visualization, it can be done as well. Now, the exploration of your data, I think Power BI service provided two very useful features. One of it, we call it quick insight. Okay, so quick insight basically is like after you imported your data source, but some of the user might not know that there might be some hidden relationship between your data or hidden insight that you do not know. So Power BI actually have the capabilities to actually study your data source, to study the data that you imported, and try to suggest you some of the relationship between tables by using these quick insight functions. So it will actually automatically help you to generate some charts, to suggest you some charts. But of course, the charts might not be useful for you all the single time. But however, it will have a certain usage for you. If let's say it might show you some of the hidden relationship that you might not be aware of, right? That's on quick insight. Another neat feature is called Q&A. So these Q&A features actually allows you to type in natural language and ask Power BI what might be the relationship that you want to see. So for example, if let's say I want to see the total sales in region A, so I do not know where does the data sit in my data source. So what I can do is, as a user, I just type on the chat box, I mean a text box, type a total sales in region A. So with the so-called the AI features of this Power BI, you are actually able to find the related field in your data source and suggested one of the charts for you. So these are the features that we will show you in the lab demo session as well, right? So those are the interesting part about the exploration of your data. So now, next part is the visualization of your data, right? Now, we talk about exploration, right? Then, of course, I mean, at the final stage of your exploration, you will need to create the report. You need to visualize all your insights, all the data into information that can be shared to a broader range of users, right? So Power BI here actually support different kind of tools for you, different kind of charts for you to build up. And of course, it will also have the so-called additional marketplace for you to go and explore. Is there any other charts that might be out there that developed by third-party vendors and you can use in your own reporting, right? And also, if let's say you are from IT background, Power BI also support you to create a custom chart. If you know about R script and the so-called Python script, you'll be able to create your own custom charts, and you will be able to upload into your Power BI desktop, so that your user can see the so-called the customized charts that only your company has. All right, and also this kind of information, I believe the charts, the so-called the scripting, the coding is all available out there in the GitHub. The community of Power BI is very strong. There's a big group of users that you can find in the Power BI community, right? The last part would be the publishing and assessing reports, right? So whatever report that you do to create, import whatever data that you mash up, whatever report that you created, I think the ultimate purpose is for you to share the story that you created to your users, right? So once you're ready to publish a report, right, Power BI actually allows you to very easily to publish your report to different mediums through one single click. So once you publish a report, your user will be available. Will be able to access the report from their mobile, from the website, or even from the team that you, if let's say you embed the report into a team, you will do that. So the publishing of this report, it is actually is like a cross-platform. You don't really need to bother. Whether this is an Android phone, whether this is an iOS phone, we don't need, as a report builder, we don't really need to bother to think about this the complexity of that kind of from that kind of perspective, right? So this is where the Power BI make it very easy for you to share and collaborate your reports. Now, the next part would be building a dashboard and sharing after you created your report. But for this topic, we believe it is best that we show you the difference of dashboard, reports, and some other elements that revolve around this topic in the actual lab demo, where later on my colleagues will share it to you and this kind of information. So so with this, I will conclude the introduction on this Power BI. So for now, we will take 5-minute breaks for all of you. And then after 5 minutes, we will come back later. And this is where my colleagues Ryan will actually start the lab demo sessions to show you how can we build the report, how can we import the report to data mashup, all the things, all the 6 things that we mentioned about just now. All right. Okay, I think that's it from me. All right, thank you. So we will coming back in 10:35, and we'll continue from there. Okay, thanks.
Hi, Ahmad Buhari from UTP. Do you have question? You raised your hand, right?
Okay, let's resume our session. I hope everyone have a good break. Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Ryan. You have been briefed what is Power BI and what Power BI can do in our previous session. So in next session, I'm going to show you how we can build a dashboard using Power BI through a Power BI lab session. This lab session will last around 1.5 hours and followed by Q&A. If you have any question, you may post it in the chat box as of now, and my colleague will assist to answer you in chat box, or we will explain the answer in the Q&A session later. So now, let's look at the lab session overview. So in this lab, our objective is to build a sales performance dashboard for F&B outlets. And for the data source, we are going to have data source from both SharePoint, which is a cloud storage, and also from my own desktop local drive, which is on-premise storage. And for the requirement will be in the page 1, we are going to build an overview page by location, which will show the gross sales, volume, and top sales product. And on page 2, we are going to build a sales performance against the KPI pages. Okay, your end result will look something like this. Your end result will look something like this, where the first page will be the outlet overview. It gives you the gross sales by location, top sales item, gross sales trends, and also there are some map to pinpoint the location and how and what is the sales performance of those locations. And on the second page, this is the performance page. This will list out on the month-on-month transaction growth in terms of volume, in terms of percentage, against all the location and against all the month. So you have the sales performance by location and sales performance by trend. This is on the page 2. To achieve this, we are going to follow the step which is briefed in previous session, which is we are going to start with assessing and preparing the data, then followed by data modeling, followed by visualization and publishing and assessing reports. And lastly is build a dashboard and share it out to the end user. Okay. So before we start the step, let me introduce you to the Power BI desktop, the Power BI development tools. Maybe let me go through with you using this Power Desktop. Okay, so on the top of the ribbon here, you will see several tabs. The home tab will be where you will do the most common operation, and on the insert tab is where you can insert different type of visual or shapes. And on the modeling tab, it gives you functions like adding new measure, adding new columns. And on the view tab, it gives you the ability to switch your themes and also put in filters on bookmark. This is on the top of the ribbon. And then in the middle here, this is what we call the canvas. This is where you will draw all your visualization of your report. And on the right hand side here, you will see 3 panes. The first one will be the filtering panes. The filtering panes will allow you to filter the visual on your canvas, either on page level or filter on visual level, and followed by visualization pane, where you can select what kind of visualization you want to put, and then also do formatting on the visualization. And the last one is on the field. This field is on the data source or the table you have imported to Power BI, and including the fields. So you can we can drag and drop the fields inside here to the visualization pane in the filter pane to achieve the result we want in the report here. And then now let's look at the bottom here. The bottom here will be the pages tab, which you can use it to navigate to different pages, or you can add You can use it to add the new pages. And also, if there are certain pages you don't want it to show to user, then you can also hide the page here. Okay, this is on the bottom. And then on the left-hand side will be 3 icons here. So the report icon will bring you to the page is where what you are viewing now, which is the reporting page, report design page. Then if you click on the next icon, it will bring you to data. The data icon will bring you to another page, which will show all your data, all your imported tables and fields, and also will show you the contents in each of those tables you have imported to Power BI. And then the last one will be the modeling. This modeling icon will bring you to a page where it will show you the relationship between all your tables, how it was linked. And you can change the relationship here or modify on the content. Okay, so this is on the Power BI desktop tools. Okay, so now let's go to the very first step. Let's kickstart our very first step, which is accessing and preparing data. So in the previous session, you have been briefed that Power BI can get data from many types of source, and those source can be either cloud data, which is from Azure SQL or Azure Analytics Services database, or could be from Power Platform, which is the common data service, or it can be other cloud data from online services like SharePoint, Exchange Online, or even Salesforce. And Power BI also, we can support on-premise data. On-premise data will be like your connect to your SQL database or your Oracle database or even SAP database. And also one type of our common data source will be also the Excel to be imported to Power BI for the reporting purpose. So for this case, let me go back to the, okay, now I'm opening a totally new blank report. Okay, let me start with importing the table from the SharePoint, which is our online sources. So before that, let me show you where is my data located. Sorry, my voice was mute just now. Okay, let me continue. Okay, so our first data source will be from SharePoint, which is a cloud storage. So the data set will look like this. I'm going to have an item table which lists down what is the item and what is the item name is their respective price. And then the next one will be the location table, where I have the location ID, their location name and the location address. Okay, so let me connect to the first Excel. So here let me select this, and I'm going to copy the path of this Excel. Copy here. Okay, so in Power BI, there are two ways to import the data from SharePoint. Idea the first method is you directly click this SharePoint folder and then import from there. And the second one will be from the online services. Let's say this one, because our SharePoint is a web sources, so we can also click this. We can also access it from web here. Let me select on this option. So I will paste the SharePoint link here. Of course, if you need authentication to your SharePoint folder, if you are first time logging in, if you are first time accessing data from this SharePoint folder, it will prompt you to log in your SharePoint credential in order for you to establish the connection. So now we have imported our first table and the content look like this. Okay, at this stage, we will just load the table first. We'll do the data transformation and the data modeling in the subsequent phase. Now let's load all the table first. Okay, now we are loading the first table while load. it will show you the result now. There are 11 rows from this Excel has been loaded. Okay, now let's go and load the second table from the SharePoint as well. Okay, let me choose. Let me choose again. This time I choose web, connect, and then let's go back to the SharePoint path. And then this time I'm going to load the location Excel. So similarly, I copy the path, and then I'm going to paste here. Click OK. Okay, let's check out the content. Is it the one we want? Okay, yeah, it's correct. But you can see now here, the header is not correctly mapped. But never mind, we can do data transformation or data modeling on it later. Let's load it first. Okay, so now you have two tables loaded from SharePoint, which is our item table and location table. Now, let's load the transactional table from my local drive, which represent an on-prem database, and you can see this transaction table. It can be come from many locations, and let me open one of it. It will be looks like something like this. It will contains the order, the date, the location, what is the item count, what is the channel, and the option. Okay, so in this case, we actually have a same transaction table from 5 locations, and Power BI will allow us to directly upload all the table together in one same folder. Let me show you how it can be done. Okay, now let's go back to get data again, but this time we are going to load from a folder. Okay, let me choose folder, connect. Okay, let me choose the folder path. So this will be from my own laptop. So I'm going to choose drive C transaction. Okay, and click OK. So Power BI will show you, is it all the table you want to combine and load in Power BI? Okay, so in this case, actually, yes. So we will load the table first because we'll do the data combination and transformation in later stage. So let us also load this table. So now all the table is loaded. I'm going to move to next step. Which is on the data modeling. So as you can see here, those are table now. There's no relationship created yet because we have not yet modeled on it. Okay, let us do data modeling on it. So how we are going to model the data is to click on this transform data. And once you click on it, will bring you to a Power Query editor. This Power Query editor is actually will be automatically use the M language to help you to shape and transform your table, either to remove rows, remove columns, set rows as header, or even more advanced transformation like transpose your table, reverse rows, and etc. Okay, so now let's transform the table one by one. So the first one, the table looks okay. Let's go to the next one for location. So for the location, as you can see, the header was mapped incorrectly. What we need to do is we can just click use first row as header, and you can see now the table header is set correctly. Okay. Now let's go to the transaction. Now, okay, now for this transaction table, now you can just see the file name here and without the content. So we are going to do a combination action on this combine file. We are going to combine the file using this Power Query editor. Yeah, let's select the transaction table. So this is the information we want. Okay, we're going to load this. So it will. Okay, so now the Power Query editor automatically bring you to another screen where we are going to combine all our data. So let's check on the source name. So you can see now only one location loaded, and we click load more. Okay, now, yeah, it's all the location has been loaded in the same all the file Excel has been combined and loaded in the same Excel. Just click cancel, and let's do some data transformation on this table as well. You can see for the source name, I think this is something we don't need, so let's just remove it. We just remove the column, and then let's check. Okay, you can see there are some empty column back behind, so let's remove this as well. Okay, remove column. So now we are done, and you can see on the right hand side here in this Power Query Editor, it will show you every step, every transformation step has been done on the table we selected. So here we can do some undo action also. Let's say if some of the steps you want to undo, let's say like this remove column, if you want to undo, you just click X on it and it will go back to the previous stage. So now let's remove again this column because we don't need it. And also each of these steps, you can see there are formula on it. This is automatically handled by this part. This is called M language formula, and is automatically handled by Power Query Editor. You no need to do any coding. But of course, if you are familiar with this coding, you can do your own coding to do some advanced transformation on the table. Okay, now let's close and apply all the changes. And let's wait a while. It's in progress. Apply all the changes. And since we have correctly modified all the table, we will expect Power BI now, they can automatically detect the relationship between the table. You can see now it can automatically detect for the location. It can map one to one. You can map to the transaction table, and the item ID in the item table able to map to the transaction table. So let's say if the relationship is mapped wrongly in the auto default mode, then we can just change it. Let's say item, now if item is not the field mapped correctly, you can change to item name or other field. But of course, in this case, the item is correct. So we map back to the item field. Let's click OK on this. Okay, and on this one, on this data modeling, I want to highlight this kind of table arrangement is what we call a star schema. Let me brief you a quick concept on what is star schema. In data modeling of Power BI, normally we will break into facts table and dimension tables. How the facts table looks like is it will contain observation or event data values. It can contain repeated values, and the values can be aggregated to create visuals. The example here will be the transaction table here. So, and the next one will be the dimension table. The dimension table will be those tables contain unique value and connected to the fact table through key column. And it can use to filter and group the table in fact tables. And example here will be those location. And item table. The star schema to split the table into sorry, if you are not on call, can you mute your mic? Where we are just now. Okay, so the star schema modeling by splitting it into fact table, into dimension table and fact table is very important because later in the visual.
Ryan, your mic mute. Ryan.
Okay, I think someone mute my mic again. Never mind, let's continue. Okay, the relationship using the definition and fact table in the star schema is very important because later stage in your visualization, this kind of if this relationship is in place, it will let you very easily to create your visual and also do the filtering. Okay, let's see next. We are going to do some DAX formula. Okay, now you can see for this transaction table, let me show the content to you. Now you can see on this transaction table, it only has the count and the item, but it doesn't have the price. It doesn't have the price of the it doesn't have the total price for this item. And this total price actually not hidden, is actually stored in the item table. So we can add an additional column called total price by using a DAX formula. So now let's go back to the transaction table. So we can add a new column. And we are going to do some formula on it, and we can call this a calculated column. For the formula, for easier reference, I prepared earlier. Let's say now we want to calculate the total price. And we just need to put this formula. Go back here. We're going to rename this column called total price, and it will be the transaction count. The transaction count here multiply the item table and the price. Let's press enter. So now you can see a total price here column created for the item. So this is how we can use the DAX formula to add a new column to the table in case. Sorry, let me continue. Okay. So this is how we can use the DAX formula to add a new column or even add a new measure. There are something called measure, which I will talk more about it later, and I will show you a comparison between the measure and the column. So now I think we are done modeling with our data. Let's check. So we are now done modeling with our data. It's time to go to the visualization. But before that, maybe it's a good idea for me to show you the comparison between the Power M query and the DAX. Just now, what you see in the Power, when I click on the transform data, what you see in the Power Query Editor, the formula here is actually called Power Query M Formula Language. This is a mashup query language used to query multitude data source. Mostly you will see in a Power Query Editor, and this will be also the querying tool for Power BI Desktop. It contains the command to transform data and shipping the data source. So we can maybe in short, we can say that this Power M query mostly is for data transformation and also shipping the data. And just now, and next will be the DAX. Just now I used the DAX to create a calculated column. So what is DAX? DAX is actually data analysis expression. This is the same formula language actually used in Power BI and also Excel. So if you are familiar with Excel, you might find it there are a lot of similarity between the formula and the DAX formula. The primary usage is more on the aggregation or calculation. It's like after the table or the field has been transformed properly, then we are going to use DAX to do calculation on aggregation. Okay, this is
excuse me. Can I ask question?
Maybe for the question, maybe you can leave it in the chat box first.
Okay.
Then my colleague will assist to answer. And then after this session also, we'll have a Q&A session. So you may leave your question in the chat box first. We will take it up and explain in the Q&A session. Thank you. Okay, so this is on the Power Query versus DAX. Then now, let's go to the visualization. Visualization, to me, is one of the most interesting steps because it can unleash all your creativity to plot whatever visual, which is also functional as well in a reporting. So for this visualization, I will talk about page layout, themes, visuals, AI and analytic visuals, and the visual interaction, and end by reports navigation. Let's go back to this one. Okay, so here, this is the visualization pane. So there are a lot of out-of-the-box available charts like those, cluster chart, pie chart, stack column chart, scatter chart, and also there are some. If you are R script or Python programmer, you can also build your custom visual by using the R script plugin here. You can just write your script and also embed those visual, those R script and Python visual into this Power BI report. And let's say if you want to have more visual, there are also options for you to go into this app source. So this app source have a wide variety of visual available, like bullet chart, word cloud, infographic designer. So you can do some exploration here in case you are looking on some very fancy or very complicated functional chart. Okay. So this is on the visualization. Now let's start with our very first visual. But as a Power BI report designer, normally before we start, firstly, we will set on the page side layout first. Okay, for the page side layout, normally you will have 16.9 and the 4.3. 16.9, this layout is very suitable for if you are using viewing this reports in a desktop or in a laptop, then you can choose this 69 ratio. And if your target end users is likely to use tablet like this Microsoft Surface or iPad to view it, then you may choose the 4.3 ratio. So in this case, since it's a desktop, let me choose a desktop page size. Okay, and then secondly, let's choose a theme. So before in designing a report, it's good if we can determine the theme first, because because all our reports, the color will later need to be aligned all together. And Power BI offer you some readily available theme. Let's say in this case, I choose Frontier theme. And most of the time also, some of the corporates have their own corporate color. So if the themes, if the readily themes here cannot fit the corporate color, we can build custom themes as well. So now we have choose the theme as well. So let's start with our first visualization. For the first one, let's start with something simple first. Okay, let's select a cluster bar chart. So now in this cluster bar chart, our objective is, let's say I want to see the top sales item in all the location. What I need to do is, let's say, is just drag and drop the field, because the relationship, remember just now the relationship is all linked properly. So we can just do drag and drop. Let's say now I want to see top item. Let me put the assets as item name. And then follow by, I want to see the volume or the total. Maybe this, I use total price. I just need to drag the total price to the value. Then the chart will automatically created here. And this chart, we can have sorting option. Either you want to sort by item name or sort by total price. So in this case, you want to see it sort by total price in the ascending order. And here also we can do a lot. And here also we can do a lot of formatting on it. All we need to do is just go to this formatting tab, and you can turn on the data label if you want. Turn on the data label. You can change the title. You can, let's say this, we're going to name it top sales item. Top sales item, yeah. Top sales item will do. And then we can also, there are other options available. We can also change the background color if you want. Let's say choose this yellow color. And you turn into yellow color. So we also have this tooltip. Tooltip means when you hover on the chart, it will show you the item name and the total price. And this tooltip you can customize. If you, let's say, you want to add more information on it, you can customize it as well. So now let's go back to this chart. I want to show you one thing is on the data labels, the conditional formatting. Data color, the conditional formatting. Let's say I want to have a range of diverging color on this chart. I can click on this conditional formatting. And let's say in this case, the color scheme I want to put on transaction. I want it to be conditional format based on the total price, which is a calculated column. The sum of total price. So we are going to set some color, let's say from light green to dark green. Okay, we are all set. Just click OK. So we automatically format the color in the based on the value from light color to dark color. This is to make the chart more outstanding to make the chart more outstanding. Okay, so we are done with the first chart. So now let's go to second chart. The second chart, I want to show you something related to time dimension. Okay, for this one, I think the best one will be a line and stack column chart. Okay, we are going to line and stack column chart. So for this one, we want to view the trend of the sales. Okay, so when we talk about trend, of course, we are thinking about date. So now this date, we have this date field, let's pull it to the share axis. And one thing you may notice, you can see if your column is a date, let me show you again the information. If your date table column is a date, Power BI will automatically recognize it into a year, quarter, month, and day format, and automatically sort it in the hierarchy format for you. And this is very useful to do a time intelligent drill up and drill down. Later I'll show you. So now we have the date axis here. Now let's add some column values. So the column values, you want it to be again total price. Okay, now it's showing on year level. Just now what I call the time intelligent drilling is like this. Let's say if I click on this, it will drill down to the next hierarchy. It will drill down to the next hierarchy, which is a quarter level. If I click again, it will drill down to a month level hierarchy. Okay, so now for this chart, let's say if we want to view the trend of total price against the count, maybe in this case, the price, we set it as a line value. And the total count, we are going to set it to be the column values. So now we have a time trend chart on the sales volume and the sales and the gross sales. So if let's say we want to add some additional information, we want to split it by type, that can be done as well. All we need to do is drag the type to the column series. And here we go. So we can see now the column chart, now the column bar can split by type. And this will give you a clearer picture to the end user. Okay, this is on the time intelligence and the trend. Okay, so the next one I'm going to show you a more interesting one, which is a map visual. So there are a lot of map visual can be choose. You have the default Bing map visual, the field map, or even the ArcGIS map. But in this case, let's start with this Bing map. Okay, so for this map, the thing of course, we are talking about location. Let's go to the location table. So for this location table, for this address field, now is uncategorized. Let me set this address like as a place. So we are going to set this address as a place. So now we will start drag this address to the location. So it will automatically recognize the location and plot it on the map. Now maybe it's not that obvious, but let's do some formatting to make it more obvious. So here we can have the map controls, whether you want it auto zoom or you want to have zoom button or not. No, this is not. And we have the map style. We can change the map to dark style. We can change it to light style. In this case, I think we're going to change to grayscale because it's easier to recognize. And then now for this map, we have the location. We can plot another dimension as well because we want to see in this map we have one branch, which branch is doing a better sales. So all we need to do is just drag this total price to the size. Okay, then here we go. We can see the bubbles is representing the total sales on the location. And if the visual is if the bubble size is too small, we can also customize as well, like make it 10 in this case. Oh, it's too huge. Maybe reduce it a little bit. Okay, so this will now this will give you an overview against the location on the sales item. And let's say you want to have another dimension, you want to further split it by type, that can be done as well. All you need to do is just drag this type to the legend here. So then you will able to see, now you can see in one tranche, the sales, there's gross sales volume and gross sales volume splitted by type and by location. So you have a very holistic view by using this map. So now we have done with these three visual. I will talk about the data card. Okay, there are some of the information you might want it to show it more obvious instead of plotting on the chart, like the total sales volume. Let's say, and Power BI will automatically default a visual for you. Let's say if I select one of the few, total price, it will default a visual for you. And let's say you want to change this visual, we just switch here, just change it to data card. So this is the total price. And we can change the name. So we can change the, let's say we name it to a more meaningful one. This will be the total gross sales. And then we can, similarly, we can format, let's say we add some border on it. We change the data color, say choose brown color. And then we want to change the unit. We can change the unit as well. Let's say the unit, you want it to, now automatically it was selected million for you. Of course, you want to change to billion. It's okay, but this unit is too huge. Let's set back to million, which is more meaningful. And you also can set the decimal place for the value. Let's say in this case, maybe I set 2 decimal place, so it shows 22.16 million on the total gross sales. And maybe if and we can change on the text size as well. If it's too huge, let's do some adjustment. And 30, let's say. So this is on the gross sales. So let me add another data card. I'm going to show you how we can use a format panda to apply the same style. Okay, the next one will be another data card. So the next one will be, let's say we want the count. We want the total count. So if let's say you want to apply the same style to no matter it's a data card or other visual to another visual, we just click on this and click format panda, and here we go. It will format exactly the same styling. This is on the format panda. So we are done with the visual. Next thing I want to talk about is the interaction. If you may notice, the Power BI charts is interactive each other. When I select any of the item, you can see all the visual is interacting each other together. And actually this kind of interaction we can control on it. Let me show you. Okay, let me select the map. Now I want to control the map interaction against other visual. So I just select the map first. Then I go to format edit interaction. So it will give you option like you want to filter it or highlight it or no interaction. Okay, let me try. If I change it to filter, what will happen? So if I change to filter, I could turn off the interaction. So now let me choose again. So when I click on it, it will automatically filter only the result I want in the visual. Okay, let me quickly show you another option. So if I change to filter, if I change to highlight, then whenever I click, it will highlight the selected data among the existing data. So it depends on the user requirement and depends on which type of visual you want it to be either highlight or filter. And of course, if you do want it to interact at all, you can just format it to be no interaction. So if I set like this, so after I set, then if I click on it, there will be no interaction. You can see only the data card is corresponding to my map interaction because I have sought this to be non-interactive. Okay. So now let's move to next item. This. So next, I would like to talk about the report navigation. So for the report navigation, let me show you using another finish end result easier. to explain. So on the navigation, by default, you can navigate by page. You can navigate by the tab at the down of the page here. And then also, if you don't want this default navigation, we can add an icon. Let's say you add an icon here, and then you format the action. Let's say you add an icon and I format the action. So when I click on it, my action will be page navigation. And then where I want to navigate, let's say performance page. Oh, excuse me. So once done, when I click on it, it will navigate to the performance page. Okay, and then third thing will be the drill through navigation. What is drill through navigation is let me show you. Let me remove this first. Let's say we have this performance page and I want it to be drilled through by location. It means in the overview page, when I want to drill by location, let's say I selected KLCC, I want to view only the KLCC performance, then I can use this drill through. When I click on performance, you can see here, every filter here automatically turn on to show only KLCC performance. This is what we call on the drill through navigation. And next will be on the bookmark. Yeah, bookmark. Let's say if the bookmark can be set in both places, you can be set in Power BI desktop or can be set in Power BI service by end user. Let's say the bookmark is, you can add here, let's say add a new bookmark. I want to select to compare only these two locations. And then I want to bookmark this. I want to add this as bookmark 2. So whenever the user open the bookmark pane in the Power BI service, when they click on bookmark 1, it will show the bookmark 1 result. And then if they click on bookmark 2, it will show the comparison between two locations. And this is on the bookmark. And then the next one will be the mobile layout. What we have designed here is for the desktop view or the tablet view. Let's close the bookmark first. So if you want to design mobile layout, Power BI also give you this option as well. You can click on mobile layout, and this will follow by page. You can see all the visual under the overview page is available for you to just drag and drop. And create a mobile view. This will follow the pages. So if let's say you have two different pages, you're going to go into the different pages and drag and drop the same mobile view as well. And then if let's say the user did install the Power BI full version, when they open it on their mobile, what they will see is this mobile layout instead of the desktop layout. But of course, they have the option. Let's say in the mobile layout, they have the option. They want to view back the desktop layout. That can be done as well. Okay, so just now on the visual, I want to add on something called the slicer and the filter. Let me go back to the screen again. The filter and the slicer. Okay, for the filtering, let me start with this filtering pane first. So for the filtering, we can filter on visual level. Let's say for this one, we want to filter item name. We want to filter only. I want to see only cappuccino in cup. It will filter automatic. We can turn on this filter. This is what we call on visual level filtering. And then the next one is if you want to filter on this page. Let's say I want to filter on this page. I want to filter by item name. Click on this page, and I only want to see cappuccino. Okay, you will see all the visual here will be filtered to show only cappuccino related details. This is on the page level filtering. Okay, then beside here, we can add something called slicer. Slicer is, let me show you. Let's say also add like a filtering function. Let's say for this condition, you want to add a location slicer. Let's change this to a slicer. Okay, so now you can see if I select the location, it will filter only that location result, and I can do multiple select for comparison purpose. If you want, you can see the map all is corresponding when I do multiple selection. And we can add another filter to filter on date dimension as well to do a cross combine filtration. Let's say now I want to add this date. I want to add the date. Where is my date? Okay, date. Okay. Moment, please. Let me just add a slicer. And then this time I'm going to use the date. So now we have created a date slicer. We can either slide the date like this to see the trend, or we can set it into a drop down. Let's set it in the drop down to select by day, or we can set it as a list. Now let me select a list because I want to show you the cross combine filtering. So for the date filter now, if I do want to, if I want to, I can turn it to date hierarchy. So once I turn it, it will be looks like this. You will have the date hierarchy by year, quarter, and month. So let's say if I want to combine the filtering, it also can be done. Let's say I want to compare now location 1, compare location 2, and between location 1 and 2, I want to compare their quarter 1 and quarter 4. So we can directly get the result by using this combination filtering, which is I think might be helpful for the user. Let's say if they want to customize to view only to do multiple filter to view the end result they want. Okay, this is all on the filtering. Okay, we are now done with page 1. Let's go to page 2, which I'll touch more on the formula. Okay, let's start with page 2. Your page 2, the end result will look something like this, which have the KPI and the growth comparison and all those fancy coloring and the icon. I will show you how this can be done. Okay, now go back to the page 2. Okay, now let's start with a table. And add a table here. We add a date dimension to this table. Say I don't want to see day, I just want to see year until up to month. And then let me add total price, total sales. How is the total sales? And let's say now we want to do a year to date accumulation. This can be done using a text formula. Okay, let me show you how it can be done. We just need to add a measure. Let's click a new measure. So for year to date, I prepared the formula. It will be year to date sales. There will be a built-in function by Power BI. We just need to put total years to date and I sum by the total price and filter by the date, and it will output the result for me. Let me paste this formula. So now we have created a year to date sales measure. So we pull this measure here. So we can see, okay, maybe let me open this. Okay, one more things on this Power BI is, let's say sometimes in developer mode, the visual maybe look too small for you. It's no problem. You can anytime just put on the trigger on the focus mode. You can see it more clearly. So now we can, with this simple formula, just one line, we now have a year-to-date sales. Okay, now let's do some more complicated one. We want to see the month-over-month growth. This can be achieved as well using our multiple simple DAX formula. So let's say now I use a simple formula to calculate the previous month transaction first. Similarly, there are also some built-in formula. I just need to utilize the previous month keyword, and I will be able to create a previous month field. Okay, let's go back to the transaction and then create new measure. Need to import it. And one more thing is on this text formula, actually, it will automatically predict the table name you want to use, or tell you what are the evaluation you are doing. This is something called IntelliSense, which may be very helpful for, when using the formula. So we can easily know what value to put in and what table to use. Okay, now we have the previous month table, the previous month measure. Let's create another one. Let's quickly create another two new measure. So we are going to calculate the transaction difference. For this transaction difference, we can also utilize the variables. If you are IT background, you can use the variable concepts to store the value and then return the value. So we are going to create something called transaction reference. Let's create a new measure. We call it transaction difference. Just press enter on it. Okay, while waiting it to load, let's also go to the last formula. Which is a transaction growth. By comparing the transaction difference, we are able to use a third formula to compare the transaction difference and turn it into a percentage. Okay, let's go to try. Let's add another measure. So now we have all the information ready. Now what we need to do is just drag and drop. Let's drag the previous month result. So automatically created. So it's now loaded. So we want to see the transaction differences. Yeah. So automatically will show you what is the transaction differences between the previous month and current month. And if you want to see in a percentage, and just drag this. Okay, now you can see the transaction growth. So we have done with this month on month, but you may notice if all the color look the same, it will look very plain, and at one glance you will not able to see the differences very clearly. So it will be good idea to do some conditional formatting on the color. Okay, and let's start with transaction growth. Let's say we select transaction growth, and then we do conditional formatting. It gives us a lot of options. Let's say this case, I want to change the font color. I want to change the font color based on rules, transaction growth. If it's a negative transaction growth, then I want it to be red. And if it's a positive transaction growth, I want it to be green color. And we just apply this conditional formatting. Sorry, I think there are some parameters I need to further fine tune. Font color, number. Okay. So now you can see if the value is dropped below 0, it will show red color, and if it's positive, it will show green color. I think just some tips. Normally in Power BI Visual, we will use green color to represent something positive or something meet KPI or something positive, and we'll use red color in case something is negative or something doesn't meet KPI. This is just one of the tips for user for the visualization, so end user can easily see the difference. And this is on the color formatting. Of course, if we wanted to make it more clear, we can even add some icon. Okay. So we are going to add some icon on the conditional formatting. Let's say on this transaction growth, we're going to set if it's negative, then you want it to be a Dalton icon, or even if you want to set it traffic light red color also can, but in this case I'm going to change it to Dalton color. And if this is a positive numbers, I'm going to set it to Upton. Going to remove this. And okay, now we have set all the condition. Let's click OK. Then you will see an icon created. This is to give you additional visualization to help you user to have a one glance whether it's doing good or doing bad. Okay, so we are done with this table conditional formatting. So now next one I want to show you is with all those transaction growth or formula already calculated. Actually, if we want to reuse it to visualize in other type of chart, let's say in this case waterfall chart, it can be easily done since we already have all the calculation. Let's say in this case we add a waterfall chart, so and then we add the date dimension, and then we want it to be based on the transaction difference. Put in the values. And so if we zoom down, again, time intelligence, we zoom down to quarter level, to month level, then it will give you a overall idea how your transaction difference was doing on each month. And then next one will be, I will quickly show you, we can add some constant line. We can add some constant line as well to show the performance against the KPI. Let's say in this case, go to here, analytic panes, we can add constant line. Let's say constant line is want to show if our target is 1 million, set it as solid line. We can plot it here in the visual as well. So this constant line will appear and user will have a better view to see how is their performance against the KPI set. Okay, this is on the constant. So next, let's see next. Okay, I think before I go to next one, maybe I just give some idea what is the differences between a calculated column and measure. Just now you can see we have the calculated column called total price, and we have this measure called previous month transaction, and which is shown in the calculated column. Maybe I just give a quick comparison for your better idea. So what is a calculated measure and what is a column? So calculated columns are, if we evaluate each row in your table, and sorry, I think the icon reverse. So once you add on it, it will save into your model. Means it will add as a static column in your existing table and take out space. And most of the time, these are for formatting purpose, like we want to use it in a slicer or row column category. And in our example just now is the total price calculation, which is also the gross sales calculation. And what is measure? Measure is evaluated real time when the visual is rendered. It was not saved in the model. So if you go to the table column, you will see all those measure actually doesn't created and doesn't save. And for measure, most of the time is used for aggregation purpose. Is like you want to do sum, you want to do average, variance, medians, something like that. And the example just now is those year-to-date calculation, those month-to-month differences, which we are using measures. Okay, so now I think I would like to show you some more advanced AI visual. So what is AI visual? Let me go back to the Power BI in the insert tab here. So you may notice there are three types of visual. They are categorized by Power BI as AI visual, which is Q&A, key influencer, and the compensation tree. The Q&A visual will let you explore your data in your own language by allowing you to ask natural language questions and then provide you with answer to those questions. Later I'll demo to you on that. And then next is the key influencer. Key influencer helps you to understand the factors that are affecting a specific metrics and analyze the data for you ranks the factor that matter and then display those factors as key influencer. Then the last one will be the compensation tree. This will automatically aggregate your data, lets you drill down into a dimension. So you can review your data across multiple dimensions. Okay, let me show you the Q&A AI visual, how we can ask language and how we can answer. Let me start a new page. Okay, let me start this Q&A. So when you add in the Q&A visual, it will automatically suggest what kind of visual or what kind of analysis you want to see. So let's say now it suggests you top sales by year to date, top channel by year to date sales. Okay, now so it will automatically create a visual for you which sort by the channel like credit card, QR, pay, cash, and against the year to date sales. And let's say if you want this visual to be, if you want to pin this answer as part of visual, all we need to do is just click on this, turn this Q&A into a visual. Then it will be now part of your visual. This will give you some idea. Let's say sometimes if you don't know where to start to plot your visual, then you can use this Q&A as a starting point. Then now let me show you something more interesting on the Q&A by typing some question and ask it. So this one more time. This time, let's say show me year-to-date sales. Year-to-date sales. So by default, you create a data card, say the year-to-date data, year-to-date sales in this volume. And then let's say I want to, let's say, show me year-to-date sales in line charts. Then you will in line. Then you plot into a line chart. And now I want it to be on month level. Show me year-to-date sales in line chart by month. Then automatically plot up by month. And I also want to view it by all location. Then you automatically display the sales, the year-to-date sales split by location. And let's say I want to buy certain location only. I just put the location name and it will plot the visual for that certain location only. And let's say just now this line chart is what we are looking for. Show me year-to-date sales in line chart by month by all location. If this is what we are looking for, we can just turn this into a visual by clicking this button. It's that easy. So this is on the Q&A where it allows you to ask questions in a natural English. So the next one, maybe just a quick one, is on the decomposition tree. This decomposition tree to help you to decompose the data. What you need to do is just drag and drop. It's like I want to analysis on the total price, and then I now want to analysis by location. I want to explain it by location, followed by type. Let's just put it here, and here we go. So we just after drag the field, we just need to click plus. Then you further split by location for me. And if I further click, I want to further split by type, you automatically split for you. This is very useful for analysis. If you want to have a breakdown on a complex structure, you can use this to break down level by level, and you can see the values or what are the insight you can see from this. This is on the decomposition chart. And the next one will be just now in the demo, you see something called forecasting. This can be done as well. Let me show you using this lab example. So now for the forecasting, currently it only support line chart. So I'm going to plot the line chart here. So what we want to focus we want to focus on the total price. Let's put this into value. We want to, of course, when we talk about forecasting, have the date dimension. So for this date, let's turn it into a date format. I don't want to be in hierarchy. So now we have this plot 1 year data or for each day, and we want to do some forecasting on it. So we just click on this analytics, and then you can see there's a forecast option appear here. So get the forecast. So in this forecasting, we're talking about forecast length. So the points here, because we are plotting it against day. So let's say you want to forecast by 2 months, we put 60. Go on, please.
Ryan, your sound got echo.
Yeah, hold on, please. I think there are some echo on my side. Hello. Is it better now?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, let's continue. So just now I talked about the forecasting. We want to forecast 2 months, so we put 16 points, and then how confident we are with the previous year data. Let's say in this case, we just confident 90%. Then what is the seasonality? The seasonality means we are forecasting 2 months, and we want to set the season one to forecast to set the interval as 1 month. So in this case, seasonality, let's say we put 30 and we apply this. So you can see the forecasting chart the forecasting result automatically plot for you, and then it will tell you what is the forecast result and what is the possible upper bound and what is the possible lower bound. So this is all can be done without using any formula. All we need to do is just put in parameter. This is on the forecasting visual. So now, having talked about all the visualization for more than half an hour, I think now let's move to next session, which is on the publishing and accessing your reports. So for this one, we are going to publish from the Power BI desktop. We are going to select a workspace, and we're going to publish to Power BI services. And the workspace here is something like where you house your reports in one location, makes them shareable, collaborate with other teams. And easily makes to update the report. So let me go to Power BI desktop to show you how we're going to publish it. Okay. So let's say this is the report you have built. You want to publish this, just go to home, go to publish, save your changes. Yes, of course. So we are going to name this webinar 1, 2, 3, lab 3. Save. So it will ask you to select a workspace. Let me close this one first. It will ask you to select a workspace. So this workspace actually is something I created in Power BI services. Maybe I switch to Power BI services to give you some quick idea. So this is the workspace I created in Power BI services. So I have the workspace called Webinar 923 Lab. So in the desktop, when I publish it, I'm going to select the same workspace. Select. And you will so then you will start to publish the apps to Power BI services. So now it's success. Okay, just close this. Now, if we go to Power BI services, we click this 923 Lab. Now you can see the report is created here. This is a report we created, and this is how it looks like here. Okay, so to give you some idea on the Power BI services, let me show you a quick concept on the Power BI services architecture. Actually, the Power BI services architecture is split into the web front end cluster and the back end cluster, and using the Azure Traffic Manager to do the traffic diversion to divert the user to the nearest data center, and also distribute the traffic using the Azure Content Delivery Network. So actually what you see in the what the data you see here, actually all stored in the Azure SQL database in Azure Blob Storage. And actually, user, when they use a web browser, viewing the result, actually that does not directly access to those data directly. They are using a gateway. There will be a gateway as the gateway between user request and the Power BI services. So this gateway will control the data, the data accessing between the user and the actual data, which is add a layers of security in case you have concern how secure the data when published to Power BI services. This is a high level Power BI service architecture to make you understand more. Okay, so now let's go back to the Power BI services. So now in this Power BI services, you will notice, let's go to the workspace. Let's go to the workspace again. You'll notice there will be dashboard, reports, and data set. So what the data set, actually the data set is means the collection of your database. Like in this case, our data set is the location, the item, and the transaction is data set. And the reports means the reports we are uploaded from the Power BI desktop. And then there's one thing called dashboard. Dashboard is where you can pin the selective visual from the report to the dashboard. Let me show an example. Let's say I have these two different reports. I have report 1. I want to pin this data card. I want to pin this visual to the dashboard. Pin. Go to dashboard. Then it will pin. Then it will pin directly to the dashboard. And let's say if I want to pin the visual from another different reports, let's say this one, tab 3. I want to pin this transaction difference. Dashboard 1 pin. Go to dashboard. And it will show in the dashboard. So when user access the workspace, in the dashboard, when they click on the dashboard, it will give you an overview on the selected visual from the report in a more summary way, which is dashboard. Okay, and just to brief you more about this dashboard against the report, I have another slide. Talking about the dashboard versus report. So the dashboard normally is only one page. It doesn't like, unlike the reports can be many pages. So dashboard only one page, and the data source the dashboard will come from one or more reports or more data set per dashboard. And report is more like you only reports only for a certain single data set. And is it the availability dashboard only available in Power BI services? But reports, yes, you can build reports in Power BI desktop. And filtering for dashboard, you cannot filter or slice. And for report, you can do a lot of filtering, highlight and slice. And set alert, yes, dashboard can set alert and reports cannot. And when we talk about this set alerts, let me show you this can be done. Let's say on this one, we want to set alert. For alert only limited to certain visual type. Let me pin a data card. Let me pin a data card. Dashboard, yes, of course, go to dashboard. Okay, let's say for this data card, you want to set alert, you can put on manage alert here. So you can set alert rules like if your gross sales is above certain threshold and what is the interval, then you can turn on send an email. Then if let's say the value really exceed the threshold, an email will be automated and sent to the target user. This is on the set alert. Okay, the next thing I would like to talk about is on the data set. So on the data set, I think one of the features will be on the automatically schedule refresh. This schedule refresh, in my case, actually, I'm connecting I'm connecting to my own laptop, and of course, my own laptop is considered as an on-prem data source, so it will need a gateway to connect my laptop to the Power BI. Then also, let's say if I was connect it from SharePoint, I will also need to key in the SharePoint credential and here. But for this case, I think there's something wrong with the connection, but never mind. I just want you to show the concept. And then you have the parameter, and then we have the schedule refresh. Maybe let me select another example, which is connected properly. Yeah, this is a better example. I can see the on-prem gateway is connected properly. The data source on the online is also connected properly. Then I can turn on schedule refresh. For this schedule refresh, we can have the frequency daily, weekly, and then if you are using Power BI normal one, you can set up to 8-time refresh. And if you are using Power BI premium version, you can set up to 48 refresh per day. Yeah, this is on the refresh. And then the next one will be, I would like to talk about the AI, the quick insight. So actually Power BI service also have out of the box quick insight for you. Let's say if I click on the quick insight, it will automatically scan the data set, check the relationship, check what are the correlation between the data, and try to give you some insight. Let's wait for a while. Yeah, the insights are ready. So let's view on it. So if you give you some suggestion, what kind of insight the Power BI services have retrieved. And if you go through those insights and if you think those insights make sense, you can pin this insight into make it become part of your visual. This is on the quick insight. And then the next one will be, the next one will be on the bookmark. Let's say if you are end user using the reports, you can set your bookmark as well by clicking view. By clicking bookmark button here, you can add a personal bookmark and save it. And then whenever user want, let's say they navigate, they have a lot of reports to navigate, or they are from certain department, they just want to see certain value which is useful to them, they can just set the bookmark. And when they click on it, it will show the visual view based on their bookmark setting. Okay, so last but not least, I think I want to talk about sharing the reports. So sharing the reports, there are several ways. One is the user, if they have the Power BI license, of course, they can log into this Power BI web service to view the report directly, or they can share it to teams if they want, which is and let other user view in teams. And then there are also other sharing option. Let's say they want to embed in SharePoint, can be done as well. Embed into a web page portal can be done as well. And let's say if they want to share this to other user which doesn't have access to Power BI web service, they can export this Power BI reports to PowerPoint as well, or export to PDF to share it to user who doesn't have the access to Power BI services. Okay, now I think we have completed all the steps starting from assessing, preparing data modeling, visualization, publishing, up to the dashboard and sharing. And hope it will give you a better understanding on Power BI, how it can be done, how it can be developed from preparation to publish. I think next I've done with the lab session. I think next will be a Q&A session. So if you have any question, you can put it in the chat box. Let me unshare my screen.
Hi everyone. So Ryan, so you do not have any more supplement, right?
I see there's a question about how the reports will look like when export to PowerPoint and PDF. Let me show it to you. Let me show it to you.
Yep.
So for the export, let me choose a report first. So let me choose this. And then if I want to export to PowerPoint, when I click on it, export. Let me export as a PDF as well. So give you a feel and look how it looks like. It'll take some time. Later, when the result is ready, I will show it.
Hi. In the meantime, can I ask, right, whether can we disable exporting by users? That means if we don't want the user to export either PowerPoint or PDF.
May I know who was that? Just ask question.
This is Lee Woon.
All right, Lee Woon. Okay.
Did you get my question just now?
Yeah, yes. So Ryan, can you turn off the sharing function within Power BI?
Okay, maybe before that, let me just quickly show how does it looks like. Because my export has done. So if you export it to a PowerPoint, this is how it will looks like, which is nicely formatted. This is how it looks like. And in case you export it as a PDF, this is how it will looks like as a PDF. Okay, let me turn off my sharing.
But the button at the PowerPoint and PDF is not functioning, right?
Yes. But for PDF and PowerPoint, it will be non-interactive, and the button will not be functioning.
All right.
Because it's already exported into a static format, so it will become like a normal picture.
All right. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Ryan, just now the question from Woon was can you turn off the sharing report function within Power BI?
Do you mean that you want to disable the function to
Correct.
export the data out, right?
Not just the data, even the report. Like I don't want the user to print out the PDF or PowerPoint.
Okay. There is a function, for you to disable the export of the data, but in terms of like you want to block entire for the certain report, how to disallow them to export out the including the report, right? Not only the data.
Yep, correct.
Okay. Okay, I can share with you the steps. Okay. Can you post your emails in the chat group? Then I will share you the steps how to do that.
Okay, can sure.
Can? Yep.
Yeah.
I will get back to you by today.
Can.
Even before lunch, yeah. I will just share you the steps.
No problem. I
I
have.
would,
Yeah, sorry.
if you don't mind, you can direct send the email to Cho as he has attached his email in the chat box.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll do it again now, so that it's quite a lengthy steps here. Then I can show you how to turn off the export of the data and also the report.
So it can be done now. Great, thanks. I have another question actually. You know, like how we set the email notification to the user. So like when the report is refreshed, then we send out the email notification, right? So there's Power BI emails that is being sent into, say, my inbox every day. Is there any way we can stop people from forwarding that email onwards? I have a feeling it's no, but I just wanted to check. You know what I'm saying? So there's actually like sensitive information in that email because it's from the dashboard or the report. But because we wouldn't want the recipient of that email notification to forward on, is there any way to stop that possible?
Sorry, I was on mute just now. Okay, so your question is more to like when the report is sent to your email server, right? Then you
Yeah.
want to block someone from forwarding out the email, right?
Yeah.
No, sorry, you can't do that because it's already sent to your email server. Then it is within your email server's control.
Understand. Okay, thank you. Thanks.
No problem. Welcome.
All right. Any other question from the floor?
But by the way, just now, just send me drop me an email, right? Or probably you can post your email, or you just drop me an email so that I will reply to your guided steps how to disable the export of the data. Yeah.
Okay, I'll do that next. Thank you. Thank you.
No problem. Cheers.
All right. So there's another question from Muhammad Fafizi. So to clarify and illustrate more on Power Query M versus DAX.
Okay. To illustrate more on Power Query and DAX. All right. I think the main difference is let's look at the data modeling part. Okay. So of course, DAX, I think as you know, it is from the Excel, right? It is a formula based, but why do we even use DAX? It's for us to get some data to analyze. I mean, if let's say you want to analyze something, for example, I want to see what are the sum of all these value, or I want to get something done with some condition. So this is where we use DAX. So basically, usually we use DAX to how do I put it, to create something for the aggregation for calculations, right? Those simple kind of formula. So whatever that you can done in Excel, DAX, it is the same for the Power BI. Now, the main difference between your DAX and your Power Query or the M Query, as we said, is this M Query basically is used to transform your data, right? So for example, if let's say your data source, I think just now Ryan showed you how the data source imported, you have blank columns, you have null values, or even if you have incorrect values, we are not able to use DAX to actually clean up the data. So this is where the M query comes into picture. So imagine that this is something like a query tools, right? So M query actually allows you to remove the columns, or if you want to add a new columns into your data, into your Power BI data set, you'll be able to use this M query to create those calculated columns, those conditional columns, or even you want to fill up some values that is blank, you want to automatically fill up every single thing, then you can use the tools available in M queries to achieve that, right? So I believe this is the so-called the main differences between this M query and DAX. Do I answer your questions? Okay. All right.
Yeah, thanks,
Sure.
Manho.
No worries.
All right. So the Q&A session will be ended until 12:30. So we will be selected few more questions from the floor. And do not worry if we did not answer your question yet, because you may reach us at after this session. You still may reach us for any queries. All right. So so there is another question from the floor. So it's how to manage from Lu Ui Ming. So how to manage duration data comes in this format. Anyone from the floor has any question, you may raise your voice to ask rather than in chat box. Before you ask, maybe you put raise your hand in the action. All right. Xiu Yi, you may ask.
Yes. I asked just now how we could copy one visual from one file to another file, because I tried to Google. It says that we can only do so if we have two files in the same workspace, but I couldn't do that as well. Do you have any other ideas?
All right, Manho, can you get the question and answer beyond?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat your questions? Let me.
Sure. I have two files.
Yeah.
Power BI. Then
Yeah.
I would like to copy one visual from one file to another file. Yes, but I couldn't do so.
Okay. It doesn't support for you to copy your visual, because why? It's because in your Power BI file, right, you will have your own data model, you have your own data set. So if you want to copy from one visual to another one, so Power BI will not be able to recognize whether that particular field actually exists in your the so-called the targeted file or not. So that's why I think a way for you to achieve this kind of copying of your template or dashboard or charts, right, is that you can save your file one's PBIX file into a template, into a PBIT file. But however, a template means that you will need to have the exact same data set when you want to open it in a new file name, for example. So this is why it's preventing you from you to copying from one chart to another file's chart. Right. So you have to build the charts and then you have to tell Power BI where do you actually refer the columns from.
Okay, so the best way is to create the template.
Yeah, but the template of course is as a whole, is everything. So if you want to, I mean, to copy exactly the same thing, to create a backup file, to create another versions, to modify further modifies on that, then you can do it in a template form. Or if, let's say you want to distribute this template to other people's, then you can save it as a template form as well. But if you are saying that, hey, I want to copy this bar chart from file A to file B, then no, I believe currently there's no way for you to achieve that.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
Right.
All right, thanks, Hui. Any other question?
I see there's one question from Lu Oiming about the duration data come in this format. So can I try to understand what I mean, how actually does you mean? Is it something like you have a date field and it comes into this HHMS SS format or something like that, or?
Thank you for taking up this question.
Yeah.
The problem that I face is my raw data. I have duration information. So the duration information come in that particular format, the hours, minutes, and second. And then every time when I import it into the system, it will always auto convert it into date and time. So the system will automatically convert to AM, PM, but that's not what I want. Because I want to plot a chart based on the duration, how long this process being done, or But then unfortunately, when I put it in, it auto convert to 8 AM in the morning or 2 PM in the afternoon. But
I see.
Yeah, so that's an issue that I'm facing. Yeah, so hopefully can provide some guide how can resolve it.
Okay. I think my opinion is okay. When you import the file, the first thing first is before you load your data into the Power BI data set, right? You have the option to do a data transformation. So you can transform the data first, and from that, if let's say the columns that the format that you want to achieve is HH, MN, and SS, right? So perhaps now in Power BI it shows you as a date and time. So I think this is where you can first change the format first before you actually import everything into your data set. And since you already have a duration, I suppose your source data, you should even contains the, I mean, the source data, do you contain dates and time, or it just date, HH, MN, SN?
My source is only contain the hours, colon, minutes, colon, second. So this is the duration taken for that particular process.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you importing and do the data transformation, so what you can try to do is perhaps you can go with change the so-called the data type for these particular columns into a time column or even to text, for example. See whether it can reach to show the data that you expect to get.
Yeah, I've tried that. I changed to text, but the moment when I change to text, I'm not able to plot a graph based on the duration is taken. Because I want to plot a graph that you can show, certain process take longer time, and a certain process takes shorter time,
Okay, so the time, are we talking about the hour or to the minute or to the
either
second? Right?
Either hour or minutes is okay.
Okay, so if that's the case, if that says your source is in hours format, but in Power BI there's no way for you to get the so-called exact format.
Sorry. My source is not in hours format. My source is in hours hours colon minutes colon second. Yeah.
So what you can do is, what I can suggest is perhaps you can how do I put it? You split the column into a separate columns to separate into a separate hours as one column, minutes as one column, second as one column. Then from there, perhaps you can see whether you can think around how I mean
Okay, got it. I get what you mean. Yes, thank you. Yes, I got what you mean. Thanks. That's a good suggestion. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
All right. So, any more question? If not, we will end the session here, and then you may still reach out to CSI for any queries. You have our email below and our contact details, so you can reach out to us anytime. So, one last question, maybe. If not, we will end the session here. Yeah. So, last question will be on.
I saw someone posted the questions by Jack Koo, right? Is on-prem data gateway require separate license? No, you don't have to send you don't have to acquire a separate license because everything is within the Power BI Pro. Yeah, Jack.
Well, just to supplement on that topic, right? On-prem gateway, this data gateway actually is shared amongst others Microsoft products. So if we are already using this gateway to connecting your on-prem data to those others Microsoft cloud-based services, you'll be able to make use the same gateway for Power BI. And of course, yeah.
Does that answer your question, Jack Koo?
Yeah, he already replied that by the chat that it's okay.
All right. All right. So the session will be ending soon. Thanks for joining the sessions. If you face any technical issue or if you are keen to explore more in Power Platform, feel free to reach us.
Okay. Yeah. One last thing. Resh. Reshwani, can you because I didn't receive your email yet, so are you typing my email correctly in the?
I did. I copied paste your email address. Yeah.
Okay, probably it's email well, or else I can get your email from the Microsoft.
Oh, awesome. Would that be okay for you?
Yep, can. Or you probably if you don't mind, then you can send it to Jay as well. Jay Lee Jay How.
Oh,
Jay.
Yeah.
Did you receive my email from Azim?
Azim, let me check.
I received the email from Zamrose, from Jessica, from Yu Chung.
Yes. Azim, I just saw you pasted on the chat box, right? Yep.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Ui Ming, I saw your questions. Would there be another session for the Power Automate, right? So probably you can drop us an email, then we can pick it up separately. All right. Thank you, Ui Ming. I saw your reply. Okay, we'll end our session here. So thank you so much for joining, for taking the 2.5 hours for this session. And if let's say any further inquiries, then feel free to drop email to Microsoft and try to reach out to CSI. Our JD has just shared his email in this group, so you can just feel free to drop me an email. Yeah. So all right, until then, we catch up again. Thank you, guys.
Thanks a lot. See you.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Until next time.
I'm just gonna.